So here we are once again with a brand new gaming laptop from Asus, the Asus TUF A15 2022 that rocks the new Ryzen 7 6800H CPU under its hood. So make sure to watch this video all the way to the end if you have any questions about this laptop, and I am pretty sure you don't want to miss that at all. But before moving further, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my future videos. So starting with the specifications, it comes with Ryzen 7 6800H CPU with 8 cores and 16 threads, as well as Nvidia RTX 3060 GPU with 140W of max TGP, a 15.6-inch Full HD IPS display with a refresh rate of 144Hz, a 16GB of dual-channel DDR5 RAM with a frequency of 4800 MHz, and last but not the least, a 512GB of M.2 PCIe NVMe SSD. So starting with design and construction, the majority of this device body panels are made of plastic. However, the only exception is the lid. It has an aluminum cover that makes it extremely rigid. The laptop weighs 2.20 kilos and has a profile of 22.4 by 24.9 mm. This puts it in the middle of imaginary foldability chart, despite being relatively light, and it does not imply that the body is overly flexible. In fact, the laptop is quite tough and it can withstand a number of durability tests. Moving down to the bottom, we find a familiar keyboard with an RGB backlight. The key travel is adequate and the feedback is clicky, making the unit suitable for gaming. The WASD buttons are transparent as you can see, and you get a number pad. The only issue we have is with the size of arrow keys. Moving on, the touchpad is massive, 26% larger than last year. It is very responsive and has a satisfying click. The bottom panel houses the speaker cutouts as well as the much larger ventilation grill. Some of you may have noticed that it resembles the TUF logo. Hot air is exhausted through 4 vents, 2 on the back and 1 on each side. Now moving towards the ports, on the left side you will find power plug, a LAN port, an HDMI 2.0B connector, 2 USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 1 ports, one of which support DisplayPort output with G-Sync, a USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1 port and an audio jack. Then on the right there is a Kensington lock slot and another USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 1 port. Now looking at the upgrading and cooling setup. On the inside we find a sizable 90 Wh battery pack. We were able to use it for more than 14 hours of web browsing and about 11 hours of video playback. Now looking underneath the bottom panel, there are a couple of sodium slots for DDR5 RAM modules. There are 2 M.2 PCI export slots for storage, both of which support Zen 4 drives. In terms of cooling, the CPU and GPU shares 2 heat pipes, with one more dedicated to each of them. A fifth is in charge of graphic memory and VRMs. Now looking at the display, the IPS panel on the Asus TUF A15 has a Full HD resolution, comfortable viewing angles, and a high contrast ratio. Fortunately, its backlight does not flicker at any brightness level. Color coverage on the other hand is limited to 63% of sRGB color gamut. Nonetheless, the gaming experience is excellent thanks to the 144Hz refresh rate provided by Adaptive Sync. Now for the CPU benchmarks, we will begin with the Cinebench multi-threaded workload. In Cinebench R23 running at 45W, in this test we can see where the 6800H ends up overall. Compared to the Core i7-12700H, it's 9% slower, which isn't an amazing result given that AMD previously used to dominate Intel in multi-thread. In my tests, I didn't observe any performance advantage for 6800H over the 5800H for single threading, which is a little surprise given the modest increase in clock speed. The Zen 3 Plus architecture isn't significantly different from the Zen 3 in any case. However, Intel is significantly faster for these types of workloads. The 12700H is a massive 27% faster. Intel and their 12700H have an easy victory in the compilation of Chromium code, while the 6800H is hardly a weak line in AMD's lineup. The Core i7 CPU is 24% faster than the 6800H. Thus, for professional code compilers, Intel's Adder X series is the better choice. However, the difference between Intel and AMD for general Microsoft Office usage is small. only 4% in favor of the 12700H versus 6800H. We also see one of the larger performance gains, 16% for the 6800H versus 5800H. When it comes to power scaling, the Ryzen 7 6800H is essentially equivalent in performance per watt to the Ryzen 9 5900HX at all levels of scaling. Just like previous Ryzen processors, so effectively we are getting the same performance at a lower bin or better performance at the same bin across generations. Now for the graphic card, the GPU of this laptop is a 6GB GDDR6 Nvidia RTX 3060, which is based on 8nm Ampere architecture and has a clock speed of 1625 MHz. It has a maximum TGP of 140 watts. Moreover, the laptop also comes with mux switch, so you can get the maximum gaming output on an external display. Moving on to some gaming benchmarks, so you can get a good idea of what kind of gaming experience you will get with this laptop. So the first game we are testing here is COD Warzone, and we are getting an average FPS of 135 with a 1% low of 113. One thing to note here is that all of the games are tested at 1080p low settings to get maximum output at optimal 1080p resolution. Next up, we have Doom Eternal, which is getting an average FPS of 215 and a 1% low of 181 when tested at 1080p resolution with graphic quality set to low. Moving next, we have Apex Legends. Here we are getting an average FPS of 240 with a 1% low of 186. The final game we tested here is Cyberpunk, which is a very graphically intensive game with an average FPS of 125 and a 1% low of 88. One of the most disappointing aspects of this machine is that it is no longer the go-to entry-level gaming notebook. The only reason for this is that it is no longer an entry-level device. On the plus side, it is powerful enough to take on the Legion 5s and Omens of the world. Surprisingly, because it has a HD web camera, it is more suitable for the average users than the ROG Strix G15. The insides are also easily accessible, and you get plenty of upgrade options with 2 SODIMM slots and 2 M.2 PCI Export slots that support Zen 4 drives. The mux switch, which allows the dedicated GPU to communicate directly with the integrated display, should also be mentioned. This allows you to extract every last drop of performance from the RTX 3060, and thanks to its 140W TGP, it has a lot of potential. We are extremely pleased that the cooling can handle the high power target while leaving untapped potential. The keyboard no longer has a per key RGB or large arrow keys. However, compromises had to be made in order to fall within a reasonable price range. Despite this, we strongly recommend purchasing this laptop. So if you want to buy this laptop, head over to the description box where you will find the best buying links for this laptop. And make sure you only use those links to make your purchase so that you can show your little love for the channel. By the way, if I say so myself, that means me. Anyway, it's all up to you now. Like/dislike this video, whatever. Hit that subscribe button. I will see you in another video. Until then, have a wonderful day and night.